Hi, good evening, everyone, and a warm welcome to you all to the March edition of NHRDN People Pay Charcha. I'm Shripa, your host for today. I'm joining in from Bengaluru, and I'm currently working as Senior Manager HR in Train Technologies. The topic for today's discussion is reimagining performance, trends shaping the future. We live in a moment of genuine inflection of how organizations are thinking about performance. The old annual review cycle, the stack ranking, the rate and reward era, these are being disrupted by AI, shifting employee expectations, and also by a much deeper understanding of what actually drives sustained high performance. Today, we are here to discuss on how performance management is changing, what are the roles played by managers, and how different tools can be leveraged to bring objectivity in evaluation. This session is being recorded and will be available in YouTube. While we have reserved the last 10 minutes for Q&A, please keep posting your questions in the chat and we'll try and pick them up during the session. Before we deep dive into the topic, I would like to welcome our panelists, Diptanu Bhattacharjee and Varunnivas Chandrasekaran. Diptanu is an electronics and communications engineer and a HR professional by choice. With over 16 years of experience across global organizations like Hindustan Coca-Cola, Carlsberg India, Nestle India, Coromandel International, and Indorama Corporation, he has worked across FMCG, beverages, bulk industries, mechanized agriculture, and textiles. For the past 6 years, he has been based in Tashkent, Uzbekistan, navigating multi-entity operations for Indorama Group, where global frameworks meet local complexities. His strengths lie in organizational design, talent management, expatriate workforce management, and industrial relations, focus on aligning people's strategy with business outcomes while keeping things simple and grounded. Thank you for joining us, Diptanu.
Thank you, Shipa.
Another panelist is Varun, who is currently working as talent management specialist with Wipro Technologies, leading the performance management charter for the organization. He has close to 12 years of core HR experience across capability building, org change management, and HR business partnering. He has enabled org skill building through role-based goals, 9-box matrix for performance management, learning maps, and competency framework. Thank you, Varun, for taking out time to be part of this discussion.
Thank you, Shipa.
So as we move into the topic, I would like to ask Varun, when we say reimagining performance, what fundamentally do you think that needs to change? What are the biggest shifts that you're seeing globally in how organizations are defining high performance?
Thank you, Shipa. One of the core aspects that we can probably look into is, am I looking for performance backward looking or forward looking? How am I going to define my performance management policy that will help me build across my organization? And how am I going to see my future through the organization? So what are some of the technical capabilities or skill building that I can enable the employees through performance management is one liner that I would want to call out. If you talk about in the recent trends, there are organizations that have probably gone away from ensuring there is a rating system available. How are they managing the performance? What are some of the aspects they do? It's not that they are completely done away with the rating. They are trying to arrive at a scenario where they can evaluate their performance better and enable them grow. So what are we as organizations going to do? Some of the major key changes that we have brought in our organization is that one thing is with respect to the role-based goals. For example, every employee, they are tagged to a specific role what they do, and we have shifted our focus from a designation base to a role base. So in that particular role, what am I going to deliver? What are my skill sets? And how am I going to get my feedback often? What are some of the periodic decisions that I can take? How am I going to anchor my potential to my performances? What we'll also be looking into.
Sure. Thank you for your insights, Varun. Now, maybe I would like to also ask Diptanu to share his insights as to what do you think has practically changed in your organization in terms of the approach that is being taken for goal setting or review cycles? And how do you see the current rating systems being done over there? What purpose is it serving?
Thank you, Shiva. So, I would like to put a question to the audience to think about that when was the last time your performance management really changed an individual? Just think about it. You need not to answer, but just have a thought. Now, in terms of the performance appraisal, or you can say whatever we need to call it at today's date, for my organization, we are a global organization with a local presence. So we always try to imbibe the global objective of the businesses, the values, to our local fabric, because that is where the actual business is being done. So in the last maybe 6 to 7 years, we have moved a lot from what we were doing earlier and what we are trying to do now. Obviously, we are not at the expected levels, but definitely we are progressing. So what we do now, we focus where is what results are we talking about, like business outcomes. We try to bring in the business outcomes angle to each performance, each objective, each KPI, KRA, whatever you call it. So first one is what results. Then how you are achieving it, or what and how we always know, but how we are linking it to our core values, which are encompassed within a 12 competency framework. So we always check each deliverable against how they are being done on those 12 competencies which address our 4 values, and at what cost. Now, this is important. While we say what cost, uh, are we talking about sustainable workload, or we are talking about no or less toxicity in the company while it comes to assessing and discussing performance? So one move that helped us and is helping us to move away from the traditional system to this new process of what, how, and at what cost is changing from an annual festival of appraisal into a more frequent check-ins, what we call as a monthly or a quarterly check-ins. These check-ins are basically focused on priorities, what we had in that month or that quarter. What are the blockers? What are the support needed? And what was the learning? This is not rating. This is not we are trying to judge someone. We are trying to build up a more frequent conversation on the performance. And at the same time, what we are propagating and we are trying to communicate is don't confuse kindness with low standards of performance. You can be very human centered and at the same time performance or non-performance intolerant. Be very clear, consistent, and quick when you give the feedback. So this is something which is changing in our organization nowadays.
Thank you, Diptanu. I think the key takeaway here is that we have organizations moving to role-based assessment when we are assigning people in terms of what role they are doing, what could be the business outcomes, and then the frequency of check-ins, like moving away from the traditional annual reviews towards frequent check-ins and continuous feedback is what is helping people understand where they are and the areas where they need to move into. The next section is where we would like to focus on what do we mean by sustaining high performance. Like recently, especially post COVID, we have seen trends which cite that sustained high performance also requires psychological safety, meaning, and recovery. And also along with it, we are seeing a lot of trends around that, and something that we also connect to it, that whatever work we do, we have to link up purpose to it. And that is what we would want to see in our goal, how we are interlinking our purpose to the final outcome that we are going to achieve. There was a recent survey done by Deloitte for the Global Millennial Survey, which shows that purpose driven organizations attract and retain better talent. And at the same time, as I spoke about psychological safety and, and the connect that people have, we have another survey done by Gallup for State of the Global Workforce Report, which shows that 77% of the employees experience burnout and that disengaged employees cost the global economy 8.9 trillion annually, which is a huge number. So my question to you, Varun, is how do you feel that we can balance high performance with employee well-being? And also, like well-being is a charter which is very well incorporated in every organization. But do you see that also being incorporated into the performance systems, or is it still going to be treated as a separate initiative?
Thank you, Shiva. That's a great question to actually introspect and think about. For example, one such thought process which I would want to post it out here is the same employee being given more work because they're doing better? That is something we all should think about. Second thing, are my employees answering their emails during vacation? Is there a second in line in their absence? What is their growth plan? So there are multiple facets to when we talk about well-being. Well-being is not centered to someone who's healthy physically and mentally. There are a lot other factors that will contribute to someone's performance, if you say. So how am I going to take care of that as a manager, as a people champion? What are some of the aspects that I'll have to imbibe? To put it short, well-being cannot be a performance metric. It is not something that we should incorporate in our smart way of goal setting. It is a hygiene. It is a hygiene factor. So whenever we are talking about hygiene that is coming aspect into here, what are some of the areas that we'll have to look into? Point number one. When I talk about someone who's working during their vacation, it clearly points out that they are overspending, they are overworking. So, how do I help that particular employee manage? So, whenever I'm going to set my specific goal, then I'm going to give a timeline to that, while it will have to be a little more stretched to motivate them to achieve high performance. I should also be cognizant for a fact that will they be able to do that? Am I setting them for failure? So it is not one way aspect. There should be constant conversations between managers and team members. It is not something that is cascaded down. Goal setting these days, if you see, it is also bottom up, unlike the earlier scenarios. So there are constant conversations in our organization we'll do. There are continuous feedback that has been received, and people call out. These are some of the aspects that I am not able to do. What are some of the support system that is available? How am I going to take care of it? And if there are any specific problem statement that the whole team is not able to solve, there is a specific team where we'll post that particular challenge to them. There is a reward and recognition available for them. So incorporate all the aspects that we have in the organization. Rather, not give the same effort, same load to the same employee. So that is how we should talk about how we'll have to decentralize everything.
Yeah, thanks, Varun. I think it also goes in much deeper in terms of how, as HR professional, we also see the kind of culture that we are contributing towards the organization. How we encourage managers not to ask employees to work on vacation or during the other free time and give them that peace and that connectedness. So here, Diptanu, I would like to ask you, what are some practical ways in which you think the managers can identify burnout while still delivering results? And do you think that leaders should be held accountable for team well-being as a performance metric and not just being measured in employee engagement survey?
Very thought-provoking question. And before I go into the response, I will just give a disclaimer. There is a question in the chat box. So maybe we go to the question at the end. Shipa, that's okay. So while I'm talking about this well-being and infinite workday, which Microsoft calls it, like workday never ends. So I have two of my team members in this today's session, and we all are actually suffering from this infinite workday issue, that workday never ends. Like duty, that there is something called as a soldier never sleeps. So something like that. So even people are at holidays. So we do check mails. Now, coming back, when to check, not to check, we will come back to that later. But before there, I would like to draw attention on one thing, that we talk about purpose, right? Many people say that purpose without a performance is a poetry. At the same time, I would say performance without a proper purpose is like a treadmill. And if you keep walking the treadmill 24/7 into 365, you are burned out, you are gone. So my question is are managers aware that which one behavior you are rewarding now in your team is actually creating a burnout and is not sustainable in the long run? Now, for example, how you said how managers can identify burnout. The first thing is low engagement. We will see that the person will not ask questions on the tasks, on the objectives, on the meetings, be emotionally flat or irritable quickly, withdrawing from many conversations, just working, thinking less. Okay. uh, and less visibility in team activities and all. Also, there can be some indicators which show physical changes as well as routine changes. So these are certain early indicators where burnout is visible and can be identified. Now, as I said, while we are trying to change the performance of uh, organizational management, so I said that we are doing three things: what, how, and at what cost. Remember, I'm bringing you back to that. In that what cost, I talked about sustainability and workload balance. So again, touching the point of checking mails on a holiday. Everybody, I believe, every accountable position has a second in line, right? So some things will be definitely delegated onto the second in line when someone is off duty or in holidays or something. However, there is a difference between responsibility and accountability. If I am accountable for something as a CHRO, that accountability will rest with me only. Even I am in holiday, sometimes I may need to check back that whether some approvals which needs me has to be seen by me, done by me. I don't consider accountability being as an overload. But yes, responsibilities which are daily operations and day in, day out, FYIs and the bulk emails which bombard your inboxes can be seen by someone else, responded by someone else. However, the manager has to be very alert. And as I said, some indicators. You have to check back with the indicators. You have to ask that what is that one thing which is taking a lot of time of yours now? This question is very important. At the same time, I don't want you ask a question and employees then jump into your lap and say, yeah, I am very overloaded. No. You are not trying to force overload or burnout. You are trying to assess, is there something which is draining off energy of a performer? And as I said in the beginning, performance without a purpose is poetry, but at the same time, just performance without a purpose is a treadmill. And don't let your employees just keep running and walking on the treadmill. At one day they will be burned out, and there will be attrition. So that's not expected out of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Diptanu. So it's important that we also identify what is the purpose, what we would want to achieve, and then link it to the kind of role that we are doing. Many times we also see that we try to, as Diptanu said, sometimes people, when we ask that, are you overburdened? People may just pitch in and say that, yes, we are overworked. But we don't even know that whether they are doing the work required for their role or not. Sometimes people may be doing it much lesser for them. And the important identifying factor here is to see what are the repetitive tasks which are being done, and if that can be moved away to the next level. And that's where we start looking into, as managers, that if a person is feeling burnt out or overworked up, where the free space can be made and how they can be connected to move on to next level. So thank you for your insights, Varun and Diptanu, and we'll move to the next, linking to the same agenda. We'll move to the next topic, which where increasingly, I mean, over the past last decade, we would have seen that managers are playing a very big transformational role. Initially, they were considered more as somebody who will be guiding us, but gradually we see that. Right from deciding how much increment to be given, what kind of goals to be set, what kind of projects we are going to be associated with every team members. Now managers have been elevated to the level where they are seen more as coaches, leaders, next gen of leaders. And that is where we would also want to understand that why is manager nowadays so central to modern performance management? And along with that, What are the capabilities that managers should have to become true performance coaches? Varun, if you can please help us address this question.
Absolutely. Uh, One of the important topics that we should all touch upon, considering performance management being the topic here. So, my manager and I used to have a lot of conversations around this. So, what are we going to do for manager capability building? So, when we ask this question, okay, what do you mean by manager capability building? What are the aspects? How do we bifurcate this capability building into multiple aspects? So, when I was, if I go to my manager with some of the challenges or roadblocks I had with my team members. How do we encompass all these? What are some of the aspects that we'll have to call out? My manager used to say only one thing. See, Varun, I am accountable for your growth, but you are responsible for your growth. So the way that he is identifying that is, I will show you the pathway, but you will have to run. So while managers are a central part of every other growth or development initiative organization takes, employees are also equally responsible for their own respective growths. They will have to own up. Now, coming back to this capability building, what our organization does within Wipro. See, there are a lot of, apart from the training programs, we'll have to clearly identify what are some of the competencies managers should have, what level of networking they'll have to do, what level of leadership quality they'll have to do, what level of execution excellence they'll have to have. So Wipro has a specific set of success profile for the leaders, and there are certain competencies identified for the managers as well. And some of these competencies, we don't ensure to evaluate them. Rather, we will enable the managers to get feedback what exactly they'll have to do and how do they navigate their own career around it. Now, when we are addressing that, coming to the people aspect of it, all the other competencies is also linked to your people factor. Now, if I'll have to understand how to enable my team member to grow, I'll have to know what are all the other roles that they can possibly apply. What are the other skill sets that they can possibly navigate? I should be in a position to mature enough to understand what are some of the pathways that I can show my team member. From there, what they can choose, and this will also reside upon what is the kind of ambition the other team member has and how the organization would want the team to grow. So, as a manager, it is important for me to understand if I am talking about a skill set, what kind of training program I should give, what is the competency level of that particular employee, how should I train them, how should I support them. So these are some of the areas that I should be thinking about before even getting to a managerial role. Now, in the current scenario, uh, whatever be the organization, be it a product organization or be it a service-oriented industry, every other organization will have a set of thought processes or value systems associated to that. How am I going to imbibe that capability maturity model in alignment with the value system? Few things are that what our organization does is, apart from the survey, there are certain coaching that we'll give the managers. There are certain coaching areas that what uh, organization will also look into within the managers. Now, how am I going to enable that? And our employee engagement survey will also talk about if my manager is having constant conversation with me, are they giving me enough inputs in my growth and career? So those are some of the important key points which will help us in uh, investing in some of these programs. So that is how we'll have to, that is the first point to even understand where we'll have to be. Thank you.
I mean, having a well-informed manager who knows about where the team is going to go in the short term, in the long term, along with it, what are the aspirations of his or her team members, is something that they can dwell on. Now, like many times when we speak about manager coaching the team members, we have also seen in organizations that somebody who is very good technically, they get promoted to people manager roles, and that's where many times they may not be able to have that vision around how the strategic vision for the team, how far the team has to go, what are the how to have those conversations with the team members. So I think, as you highlighted, Varun, that if they are well connected, they have that understanding of going into deeper of understanding each and every individual as to what they would want to achieve, and also analyzing positions are opening in the organization. They can pave a pathway for them. I'll just share a statistic data here, which was surprising for me when I was also doing my research. That that manager is the single biggest variable in employee performance, and the McKinsey research shows that 70% of performance variance can be explained by the quality of direct manager. I mean, sometime or the other in our lives, you would have seen that when we have a manager who is highly aspirational, who has a great vision, we are able to do wonders. And sometimes when they would want to take a back seat, we are also having a different kind of approach towards the career. So I would like to ask Diptanu that what does good coaching look like in real life? And like, are we expecting too much from managers today, or do you think that they can scale up to that level? And finally, how can organization build these capabilities at scale rather than leaving it at fragmented opportunities of coaching?
So to begin with, I will underline a very harsh reality that a good individual contributor or a team player or a subject matter expert may not be a good people manager. And this I have seen and learned and faced again and again and again throughout my career in different locations, different organizations. The same formula applies. An excellent contributor may fail miserably at a people manager's position. Having said so, I am still underlining that nowadays managers are not judges. They have to transit from a role of a judge to a multiplier. You have to create multipliers in the organization. Now, having said that, the manager role is obviously getting heavier and more, not lighter in any sense. Okay, it is getting more and more into technicalities of people management and individual, psychologies. Even some Microsoft research data shows that leaders of the organizations expect managers today to do more on responsibility to manage the teams, including AI upskillings. So they are believing that my managers will take this up. So organizations nowadays, at least what I have been doing here, and also some other organizations that I know of, coaching is now becoming a core management capability. You can't have it sitting at just for a one training of a grow model or something and talk about it 2 to 3 times in a year and then say, oh, wow, I did some coaching as a training. That doesn't help. It becomes a core competency of being a people manager. So coaching becomes the backbone. Now, organizations are also trying to standardize this coaching through some certain simple practices, like, as I said, weekly, monthly one-to-ones, structured feedbacks. We have then strength-based development approach, identify strengths, work on them. And also, what I have seen is that quality of conversations beats the frequency of conversations. If you are really doing quality check-ins, maybe you can do it once a quarter, once in a half yearly once. But if it is really a quality one, then your efforts really bring results. And also, to enable the managers nowadays, what I would like to put in is, don't take it to a so complex level. Just simply teach the managers, I'm using the word teach the managers 4 simple questions they have to ask. What is the number one outcome for this month or week or period, whatever is the discussion happening of that with that employee? What is the number one outcome? What's blocking progress, if it is any there? If is there any blockages? What decision or support you need from me? And what capability or learning are we trying to develop while we are trying to do this? These 4 questions, simply and honestly asked, helps a lot of coaching conversations to start with. Practice makes man perfect. So until and unless you ask simple questions, start the practice. See, giving feedback, people, still is easy than taking feedback. So in turn, giving the feedback becomes more critical because you have to be talking to, say, a Gen Z or someone else where your words are being very carefully heard of, listened and understood. So you have to choose your words very carefully. So before going to this complexity of the words, just follow these 4 questions. What was the number one outcome? What is blocking your progress, if any? What support or decision you need from me? What capability and learning are we trying to build here? That's all. And also some underlines. Separate the compensation discussion from performance discussion or coaching, please. Have a separate session. Don't run away from compensation discussion. I am also telling you that. Everybody should discuss that, but in a proper environment, in a proper setup. Don't combine the coaching of performance with a compensation discussion, because many times people or employees will try to hide behind the compensation issues their real performance issues. Second, calibration of the upgrades. Whatever one-to-ones you are doing, record them. Have some evidence which was discussed, because at the end year, when you come to the final appraisal, all these calibrations and evidence-based discussions will help you. At the end, I will just say coaching is must. Managers are a system. Invest in your system. Okay, managers are now your system. And overall, have empathy. Don't put SOP and algorithm behind every human being. Doesn't work. Have empathy while you have these discussions. These are the simple tricks and methods how a manager can begin a coaching conversation journey and build upon it.
Sure. Thank you, Diptanu. And if you can also touch base on what organizations can also do to ensure that we have managers who are having these capabilities.
See, the first thing that organization can do is help the managers with certain simple toolkits. It can be a software digital based toolkit, or a simple 1-page, 2-page document shared on email or some other medium. Help with toolkits, help with the guide rails, help the do's and do nots. Give these questions what to ask. Give some scenarios of tough conversations which happen. Every employee may not accept what the manager has to say. The employee may revert back with a certain different understanding of the whole thing. So practice, as I said, help managers with the toolkits. Let them practice it at proper forums, at proper events. Give them prompts where they need to remember that they have to do these frequent check-ins. Give them a platform where they can store these calibrations which happen during the discussions, so that they can refer to this at the end of the year. So as I said, all these 4 questions I gave, but as a facilitator of this manager performance conversation. So we must lead the way, show the rails, talk about the loopholes, do's and do nots, and create a practice and a routine of it. Not that one final annual festival of performance appraisal and performance discussions. This has to be, as I said, a core management capability. And if anybody, any HR professional or any senior leader wants to improve, has to invest time in it.
I mean, thank you, Dipan. Like these are the areas where we are not focusing on. Like we have seen many organizations, either they want the managers to start taking up the work, or they will just tell them what to do. But being the true enablers, where the right kind of toolkits, where the right kind of resources are available, where they can check in all the details, is something which is missing in there. And I think maybe with our next theme, where we are going to talk about AI, I think that is one tool which can be leveraged to give the managers the space and a framework which can help them to have further discussions with the team members, and also recall what was the last conversation and where the employees needed to work on it. So, as I said, we move to a final theme, which is creating a lot of excitement, and also something where we have a lot of anxiety around, like what is going to happen in the next space. So, as we know that AI is entering the performance management space in a meaningful way, from automated feedback tools to predictive attrition models to AI-assisted appraisal systems. So right now, also, like, few organizations are in an advanced stage, few are in a very nascent stage, and we have a lot of ambiguity around these areas, at what may come up, what may not be there. So I think it's important if we can talk about what is genuinely useful and what is the hype about, and what kind of different ethical boundaries that we can set on these areas. So I would like to ask Varun that how do you think technology is transforming performance management in your experience? And can AI truly make performance management more fair and objective?
Thank you. Shipa, one of the pondering questions that we are looking into coming when you talk about AI as a boom that is happening right now. So, to me, technology is an enabler. Our value systems will have to be on top of that, or which should be the baseline where technology can enable these things. For example, one such feature that we can probably think of is we are enabling an agent where it will look into all my work emails, it will talk about my goals, it will check what are some of the goals that I have set in the system, what kind of discussions I've had, what kind of feedback I've had with my manager, and then it will prompt me, these are some of the aspects that you've worked on, these are some of your development areas that has been given to you, what is the next course of action for you. So that is how it is prompting me to tell. Of course, AIs can hallucinate. AIs will hallucinate with some data. So while it is going to prompt me, give me some insights around what kind of work that I have done, it is also important for me to verify the data and move forward. In large areas, AIs will assist in goal setting. AIs will assist in providing feedback, updating our own respective self reviews and whatnot. And when you talk about technology as a scenario, not only AI or analytics, what you've called about, and you also touched upon it, that how it will help in identifying certain development areas. Going back to the previous question that we've talked about in terms of coaching, how do we coach the managers? AI is one of the probable tool that we can use upon. For example, if I'm going to talk about or give an idea to that particular manager, what are some of the areas that he will have to touch upon? He will have to talk to that particular team member. How do they coach them? AI can help us in building a specific model. We can build a predictive analytics in AI, which will help the manager to deep dive into certain areas. And when you talking about integration of tool and data, one major aspect that there's a pitfall is that data integrity, data privacy. So whenever we are building an AI agent, whenever we are utilizing AI, we'll have to be absolutely cautious of what is the data privacy policy that my organization has. How am I going to incorporate that policy so that it will not be a problem in the future? And in the current context, whenever we are talking about transparency or how the employee is getting the transparency of data, what are some of the goals that they can probably set with respect to manager? What kind of visibility that they can get into their manager's goals? So those are certain aspects, those are certain permissions that AI can leverage on. And in our organization, there is a utilization of AI where it will also help some of the employees in setting their goals. If you give them the key performance indicators or areas what they want to work on, if you are logging in their job description, it will give you that particular goal. And while submitting our self reviews or our respective reviews or feedback, it will call out what are some of the areas that went well, what are some of the areas that I should have improved on, what are some of the areas that I should focus on. So these are some of the basic checks AI can give. And from there, we can build how we'll have to develop or integrate other development areas. Another aspect is that in today's context, multiple development goals will come to us. It will come from your performance management. It may come from some other employee engagement survey. It may come from your 360 survey. And there will be a separate succession planning survey that exercise that will happen. You'll have a development goal from that. Now, how can we utilize AI to integrate all these development goals so that I will have a laundry list of goals? From there, how do we uh, enable or how do I identify the right development goal that can incorporate all these things instead of having multiple development goals at multiple areas? So, in putting it short, with the integrity, with the data integrity policy in place, with the data privacy policy in place, if I am going to reduce my number of transactions through AI, if AI is going to prompt me in doing the right thing, that is where organization should focus on. So while we are talking about building multiple agents as one single system, how am I going to integrate all these agents together that can develop a better employee experience for the employee? In the end, they may possibly use the performance management system in a year or twice in a year. So how am I going to talk about the continuous feedback mechanism through AI? So what are some of the features we can build in? These are some of the prompts or thoughts I had, which I would want to put it forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Varun. I think very rightly you highlighted that as an organization, we tend to have multiple initiatives, and out of those multiple initiatives, action items comes out. Something coming out of succession planning, something out of employee engagement, something coming out of performance, and many organizations struggle to integrate and prioritize what is the most important thing the person should be doing on. When we are trying to hold one thing, we are letting go of the other part of it. So if we have it integrated with AI, we can see what are the things we are prioritizing and what are kind of messaging we are giving to the people in terms of the culture that we are building in there. So I would like to ask Diptanu the next piece of it. So how do you think employees are reacting to increased transparency through technology? I mean, we got to know few organizations are tracking to the level of number of mouse clicks, where the person is active or not, and it made the whole universe go jittery. Oh my God, this is how I'm going to be tracked. So what do you think could be the risk which could happen if we are going to be over reliant on data?
So yes, very hot topic of the day. So see, trust is the currency of new age performance systems, at least for the new age employees. What I can see, if you are trying to automate a broken system, you are not getting transformation. You are working towards a faster mess. Okay. So be careful and mindful what you are trying to invest in automation. Is your process really that much transparent, fair? Do people trust your process? If employees don't trust your process, they will disengage or they will game the system, right? And I have heard myself many employees saying, what will happen with this PMS system? That old same old 8, 10, 12%, 15% will be getting, or somebody who is into the good books of the manager will get a better one. What is the purpose of having all these things? So developing that trust comes from three factors. You know, you have to use tech to create fairness and growth data, not for surveillance data. Let's come out of that. If any organization, as I said, we talk about many ideal case scenarios, but we must acknowledge that we are living in a VUCA world, okay, where one world superpower is, just bombing another without any reason, without any proper objective. Everyday objectives are changing. So whatever we say, we must live in with certain, I should say, differences of actual reality. So in this actual reality, AI or tech, as I said, use cautiously. Don't use it on a broken system which gives you a faster mess. Now, how this trust and fairness can be brought? So in my view, if you use tech to create three fairness levers, I put it in that way, three fairness levers. First is clarity. Give role clarity, give the role outcome clarity, standards, visible standards, okay, prioritizations of your performance standards. So this clarity is the number one pillar which will help build trust. Consistency. Managers, their prompts, their check-in frequencies, their calibration methods, the AI can guide the manager as to analyze his or her own conversation and see if there is bias, if there is anything which is overemphasized. So tech can help. Okay. So consistency of this process also helps develop trust. And the last one is evidence. Work artifacts, what I call them. Artifacts of your work or performance in the past period, maybe month or a year, is very important to highlight and talk about when you talk performance. Or customer or peer inputs, that is again very important. And then your progress on the outcomes. So clarity, consistency, and evidence. These three, if you can demonstrate clearly using digitization, AI, or tech tools, you can definitely build trust. Obviously, it doesn't come with one cycle. It will take time. If your trust is already, your system is broken, as I said, so you have to work on it. Slowly, it will come upon. But two red lines I would like to mention here. Tech or automation or AI can recommend, humans decide. And the humans have to be able to explain the decision, not just say, I decided it. Or maybe I will give you an idea. Just look at your organization's current performance management system. Just look at it, how much transparent it is, how much in depth it shows to the employee what has been written or recommended or commented or given a rating. Just have a look at that. If you have a better transparent system, good for you. Then you work faster on the AI and the automation. If it is not, then work on your system first. Okay. The second red line that I always want to say, as I also said in the very beginning, use this data out of this technology for fairness and growth. Don't use it for surveillance or victimizing somebody or putting them into a fix where I want to, show somebody that, you see, I am the boss. Don't do that. If you really do it sometime or some other way, it will come back and hurt and haunt yourself. So with this, I think I would like to say that building trust on your system is important, and AI fairly can very easily help you do that. 3 levers: clarity, consistency, and evidence.
Thanks, Diptanu. We have one comment where Ashish highlighted, that he saw geolocation tracking was there in Metro while one commuter was logging in on Teams. So as you said, I think it's important that we leverage it for the advantage and benefit of the team members rather than trying to see what they are, like going to the nitty-gritties and very minute details, which doesn't help anyone. So
Just to add one thing here, before I forget, I saw a few days back, Government of India passed a work from home law or some ordinance, right? And they have given some guidelines in where there should be some geofencing technique available at your home, some device or some technology, which will make sure that the person is logged in from this place and into this company and not into some other company at the same time. So I don't make out of it. What is the reason of having geofencing at home, or he may be at his home or any other place? So there are things which come up, but we need to be careful what we adopt. Thank you.
Before we open to the Q&A, which I'll request people to please put in your questions in the chat, one final thought I would like to hear from Diptanu. So how do you think, what does performance management is going to look like 3 to 5 years from now?
See, 3 to 5 years down the line, I will ask a question to myself and everyone here in this room. If I remove the annual appraisal system, what it is going to break? Your pay decisions or your manager capability? Think about it. 3 to 5 years down the line, I think this PMS system is going to look like a more frequent conversation. Many of the organizations have already, they have done with their rating systems. Okay. So if we have to really look in that what it is giving me, and in the beginning, I asked a question that, what do you think? When was the last time your PMS system improved up individual? So 3 to 5 years down the line, it will be more conversational. It will be more data based. It will be more, progressive. It will be more and more frequent, as I said, weekly, monthly, quarterly, maybe possible. And it will put a lot of onus on both the manager and the employee to give a feedback and to receive a feedback or to comment on the 3 things which I said. What's your priority? Where are you stuck? What support you need, and what we are trying to build. So this is where I think the future of performance management is going to take us. That is going to be more as a regular practice than an annual great festival of performance management.
Thank you, Diptanu and Varun, for your insights. So we have few questions and we'll try to ask them from you. We have one question from Shikha, who is saying that how can HR ensure that the manager's biases do not play a part in performance review of teams?
See, one such aspect that we can probably build in is how do we focus on outcomes and not on the effects? The moment you're focusing on outcomes, you are pushing them to think objectively. So there are mechanisms that you can incorporate, but the very basic change is how do we see people delivering the outcomes? At the end of the day, without any micromanagement, are the outcomes achieved Am I able to ensure that expectation met by the respective team member? That is the push that will be happening. So that is actually a shift from what it was actually earlier. So few years back, we would be writing your goals. I'll do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I will have conversations with people. I will ensure that I will do this activity. But what was the outcome? The very basic change when we moved into a key performance indicator or key result area is this. Because when you have a focus on the outcome, you are pushing your mind and your thought to achieve that outcome. It will automatically fall in your objective area. Other than that, there are certain aspects people don't even know that they are biased. So one such call out as recency effect is something all of us would be doing. So the awareness, how are we going to build into the organization? So see, some of the aspects people don't know that they're doing. So what are some of the bias that we have consciously or unconsciously? And amongst this unconscious bias, what are some of the examples that I can give my manager, which can probably think? So one such example, we can make use of AI to do that. AI can probably prompt, are you doing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? So that will make people to think about if they are doing in that area, and that is a shift we'll have to. It's a value system. We are going moving towards a big change in this area.
To add
Yes.
on the AI role part of it, when we talked about the organization's role to enable managers for coaching our conversations on performance, AI practice tools are there, which helps the manager to place his or her conversation onto the AI platform. And then AI gives a revert showing bias or over focus on some areas, maybe if there is. So AI points out, like, repetitive loops of the same point going around and around, or one part being overly expressed, or even one part which doesn't have a evidence. While we talk about work artifacts, we must talk with working artifacts. So if there is no artifact and I'm talking about something, it may be my mind's thinking, not on the reality. So AI tools can definitely help managers practice the conversations. However, as I said before, we all are human beings. So human resource professionals must be on their toes and edge to assess, see, and highlight any biases before the conversation is happening. Maybe some proactive sessions on not to have bias. This can be a regular repeating session again and again and again, but some things once said loudly and continuously becomes a truth. So telling about biases, not to do, not to do, not to do, will help definitely reduce biases. But AI, as I said, while you practice, it can give you back where are you biased, where are you might be overdoing it, or talking something which is not there on the evidence.
I mean, very rightly pointed out. The challenge here is not that people don't want to do, but the blind spot which exists and the subconscious or unconscious bias which people carry is making it more difficult for them to interact and make it a great experience for a team members. And I mean, here I would like to quote my manager. He says that, like, nobody gets up in the morning and says that I'll make hell for everyone today. But eventually, when they're working in the course of the day, they don't even know what they're doing. So that's where, if we are going to leverage the tools, that will very much help people to understand. And it's a neutral party, not somebody coming in as a person. So I think maybe sometimes we'll have the reliability more on them, saying that tool is not judging us. So we have another question asked by Asim. Do you think performance management model should evolve? Say we need buckets like strategy, operation, projects while setting objectives.
I will take
Sorry, go
this
ahead.
at the beginning. Sorry, Varun. If I may remind the audience what we said that we are doing in our organization right now. Our model, we are trying to evolve around three levers. What results? Business outcomes. Okay. And these business outcomes are not the individuals only. It's an individual plus team plus enterprise impact level outcomes. I am a very solo brilliant person, but I am very avoidable to all my colleagues. Doesn't help. Okay. So outcomes means enterprise level, team level, and individual combined. So what outcomes? How it was achieved, at what cost? If you are talking about these three things, I can send in these questions back again and some detailing in what we look into that. The values, the behaviors, the overall business strategy, everything is imbibed in these three small questions. You have to just structure it around and then explain people how to build their KPIs, KRAs, OKRs, whatever you want to call them, properly for the year or for the assessment period. Yes, Varun, please.
Thanks, Diptanu. Thanks. The way that I see how we'll have to structure our goals is largely dependent on the role all the individuals occupy. So, for example, if I'm going to talk to an operations person and talk about strategy, they might not have any input on strategy. They are largely driven around operations. And when I talk about implementation of strategy at the leadership level, they might not have a larger number of operation goals. It largely depends on the kind of role each of us occupy. For example, uh, every role will have a certain amount of decision making ability. Every role will have a certain amount of operations, transactions, and the way how strategy will have to connect to each of these goals is the way how the goal should be linked. Not every individual or every role need to have all these four buckets. Or when you talk about uh, any methodology that we have, if I'm individual contributor, I do not have any people metric, right? And if I'm a people champion, I will definitely have a people metric in other areas. Someone who's working in finance, they will have a large number of goals associated towards your revenues, gross margins, and profits, etc. But as a HR partner, how am I going to contribute to that finance aspect? So I can probably work on what kind of cost of uh, hiring that I can do. So while there are aspects that will come wherever it is possible, we can probably incorporate that. Instead of bifurcating into force fitting these into large four buckets, I will go by the rule. These are my deliverables. At the end of the day, I'm expected to do this. And how is this particular delivery linked to my own respective organization's outcomes? That is the visibility each individual should get. If that is sorted, this is sorted.
Yes. Thank you, Varun. I think many times people do have that ambiguity and they will asking questions. Okay, why does my performance doesn't have a lot of elements around strategy? I would want to do something on it. Yes, it's a wishful thinking, but you also have to calibrate it against the role, what role people are mapped into, and how does it link to your, like, I mean, we can have a bigger purpose, but gradually that could be part of a developmental planning. But as part of goals is something that we are measuring more with outcomes and what can be there that is in line with the role that we are currently positioned in. So I think we had a very interesting conversation on this topic, and I would really want to thank each of our participants for the interesting questions that they are posing around to make it more conversational. And Diptanu and Varun for bringing in the insights. I mean, we are living a in a bunny world where we don't know what is going to be the next step. We don't know what is going to happen to us. And here, I think you have given us good indicators or a pathway to understand where we should be heading as HR professionals and where the organization should be heading in that direction. Thank you all for your time and wishing you all the best in ensuring that we all have a meaningful goal set for each one of us and we contribute to the organization's performance as well. Thank you all and have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.